Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is in Manila to attend the 31st ASEAN Summit. A gala dinner was held where all the global leaders met. Prime Minister Modi met US President Donald Trump on the sidelines. Prime Minister Modi is on a 3-day visit to Philippines in the face of growing extremism and terrorism. He is likely to discuss the issue of de-radicalization with the ASEAN leaders. Economic issues, including trade and investment, are also expected to dominate the discussions. The government has called Prime Minister Modi's visit to Manila as a symbol of India's commitment to deepening ties with the ASEAN member states and with the Indo-Pacific region in general within the framework of the Act East policy. Prime Minister Modi is also scheduled to have a bilateral meeting with the Philippines President Rodrigo Duterte and also meet US President Donald Trump, although it has not been officially outlined. Sources say Prime Minister Modi will make a strong pitch for investments at the ASEAN business meeting. Prime Minister Modi is visiting Manila at a time when India is gearing up to receive top leaders of all the 10 ASEAN countries for a special ASEAN-India summit in New Delhi. It is scheduled to be held in January to celebrate 25 years of the Indo-ASEAN partnership. Our correspondent Ramesh Ramachandran is in Manila getting us the minute-by-minute developments on the latest diplomatic updates. Let's also take a listen in to this exclusive conversation that he had with Jaideep Mezumdar, who is the Indian ambassador to the Philippines.
Ambassador Majumdar, everybody back home is curious to know who all will Prime Minister Modi be meeting here for a bilateral or a pull aside. So if you can also speak a little bit about his bilaterals with leaders such as President Trump and other world leaders here.
Of course, he will have a substantive bilateral meeting with his host, President Duterte of the Philippines. And this is going to be in the nature of a full bilateral meeting. Number of agreements are also expected to be signed during that. Apart from that, he will have engagements with both ASEAN leaders and with East Asia Summit leaders who are not members of ASEAN, that is. And these are all being worked out.
Ambassador Majumdar, there's a lot of buzz about this so-called quadrilateral meeting at the level of officials, which we are given to understand might take place here in Manila over the next couple of days. Could you give us a sense of how this meeting has come about and what can we expect from this particular meeting between India, Japan, the US and Australia?
This is a work in progress and it's still not yet final when and where they will meet, and if it happens, you'll get to hear about it.
India-ASEAN relationship, Ambassador, ASEAN is turning 50. India has had a 25-year-old relationship with engagement with ASEAN. So what can we expect going forward in this relationship at the economic level, political, security dialogue? If you could give us a flavor of that as well.
Sure. If you see ASEAN, it is really our very close extended neighborhood. We share maritime boundaries with 3 of the ASEAN member states. If you take Indonesia, the easternmost point and southernmost point of India is just about 100 nautical miles from the westernmost point of Indonesia. So that way we are very much part of this region, and therefore we have not only historical and civilizational links, but in the present times we have extended our Look East policy to an Act East policy. We have a very thriving diaspora in many of these countries. We have very close economic and commercial links. We have defense links with many of these countries, and we have great people-to-people interaction.
Our senior correspondent Ramesh Ramachandran in Manila, who got for us that exclusive conversation, is now joining us live on the broadcast. Ramesh, you've been tracking the latest on the diplomatic moves very closely. What are you gathering at this point?
Well, Molly, in the last couple of hours, we've seen Prime Minister Modi have informal conversations with a host of world leaders, including President Trump, Prime Minister Abe, Prime Minister Turnbull of Australia, Premier Li Keqiang of China, and also other world leaders attending the ASEAN Summit and the East Asia Summit here in Manila. This was on the occasion of a gala dinner hosted by President Duterte of the Philippines by virtue of him being the host country. We saw pictures of Prime Minister Modi having a hug and a handshake with President Trump and having casual conversations with a host of other world leaders, including as I said, Premier Li Keqiang of China. Now, tomorrow will be the key, the operative part of his visit. Tomorrow we'll have Prime Minister Modi's bilateral with President Trump of the US, followed by a bilateral between Prime Minister Modi and President Duterte of the Philippines. And on the 14th, we'll have another slew of bilaterals with a host of leaders, including Prime Ministers Abe and Turnbull of Australia. Now, just to give you a sense of where the situation lies at the moment here in Manila, Molly, earlier today we saw the first official meeting of the Quadrilateral Initiative that comprises India, the US, Japan and Australia. And this meeting came about at the level of officials, but the significant part was this was the first such meeting in a decade. Remember, it was first mooted by Prime Minister Abe of Japan in 2007, and since then this is the first meeting of the so-called Quad, which met here in Manila. And on the agenda were a host of regional issues such as the South China Sea dispute, North Korean crisis, non-proliferation, freedom of movement in the South China Seas, territorial integrity and sovereignty of countries in the ASEAN region. So in a sense, India was trying to become the net provider of security in the wider Indo-Pacific region. And that conversation will likely extend into the bilaterals tomorrow and the day after here in Manila.
That is essentially the quadrilateral. I was just coming to that, Ramesh, with the impetus of countering China. That's the Quad, as you've just outlined for us. But help our viewers understand as well, how significantly do we expect the issue of terrorism to really dominate the talks? So we have gotten certain feelers from the experts talking about how that is going to be one crucial issue to also watch out for.
Absolutely, one can it's only natural that when world leaders gather at a multilateral occasion such as this, the 31st ASEAN Summit and the 12th East Asia Summit, they would discuss the entire gamut of regional and global issues, including, for instance, as you mentioned, counter-terrorism. Now, from the Philippine perspective, Molly, Philippines and President Duterte would like to highlight their recent successes in the southern city of Marawi, where they've successfully pushed out the so-called Islamic State militants over the 5-month period. So clearly that will be something which President Duterte would like to highlight in his speeches and interventions here at the summits. From India's perspective, India would like a categorical commitment on the part of ASEAN and East Asia on having a zero tolerance towards terrorism, especially cross-border terrorism, which directs against India and many countries in South Asia and beyond. That said, other issues such as North Korean nuclear crisis and the South China Sea issue can be expected to figure prominently in the discussions here over the next couple of days as well.
We're going to leave it there for the moment, Ramesh, but of course we'll keep coming back to you as and when further updates emerge from Manila. Ramesh Ramachandran tracking the very latest on the ongoing ASEAN Summit. The ASEAN grouping is celebrating its 50th year anniversary.